It's Recruiting Wrap-Up Wednesday. We're going to get into everything Boston College has been doing on the recruiting trail. We're also going to go into the transfer portal and give you all the roster moves that have been flowing on Tuesday. All of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. All right, let's get into recruiting news. This is the subject I love talking the most with you about because it's something that we don't get a chance to talk about all that often. So I wanted to get into what coaches have kind of stood out so far in the class of 2023 because BC has a new group of offensive coaches, basically all up and down the line. And you get the usual gang of suspects on defense. So just looking at the offers that have been going out, what coaches have really started to make connections? And the first name that pops up for me is, as always, Azar Abdulrahim, their defensive backs coach / associate head coach. He's always doing great. And it seems like every recruit is somehow connected to Azar Abdulrahim because whether it's a defensive back, an athlete, the DMV area, he is just associated with tons of players. And he's already landed one. Brian Sims, the defensive end from St. Francis in Maryland. Azar Abdulrahim, he's the one that got Boston College in the door there. So he is obviously going to be the number one recruiter in my eyes so far. But we joke about it on this podcast. A name that I'm interested to see how he lands, but I can't get a gauge on what he's doing yet, is Coach Googs, the offensive line, Dave DeGuglielmo. You know, he obviously has started to build a cult following with his Twitter stuff with the big dogs, but he's starting to offer some really interesting offensive linemen in the class of 2023, and none bigger than Raymond Polito, a 6'7", 350-pound offensive lineman from California. And getting a guy like that, I know he just offered another guy, Brandon Solis, from a powerhouse program, Lipscomb Academy. Again, I'm telling you, so that's two powerhouse programs that Googs is trying to get into that kind of impressed me. And then another powerhouse program, one that we haven't talked about in a while, St. Thomas Aquinas. Now, Boston College has had players from that school. I want to say Wyatt Ray went there. Now, that's a good program. And they offered another offensive lineman, Ryan Mickow, on Tuesday. So you're seeing a lot of these names starting to pop up, and Coach Googs is going to try, and I'm interested to see what he lands. But his name's popping up a lot, so I think that's a name that kind of impresses me. Sean Duggan's another one. I like the pushes that he's been making out on the recruiting trail. Names that I haven't seen a lot. Darryl Wyatt. I haven't seen his name pop up. The wide receivers coach. Haven't seen his name very much. And Vince Obase, I think he's already hit his goal. I think they've got 3 defensive players already on the line, so he's kind of done his thing, so he deserves a lot of credit too. And speaking of Vince Obase, this is kind of a side tangent here. The dude can dance. Watching that game, there was a play in the spring game, by the way. Vince Obase was on the defensive side of the field, and they had a fumble. I don't know if they actually called it a fumble or not, but Vince got into this dance that I was like, wow, that dude can move. And he's a big former defensive lineman. So it was interesting to see that. I thought that was kind of funny. But that's kind of where the coaching staff is right now. And I'm still waiting to see where Savon Huggins does, because I believe that the addition of him is going to improve Boston College's recruiting, because he is New Jersey. Like, you have now 2 New Jersey guys. Now, Joe Daly was good, but I don't think I saw as much out of him in New Jersey as I was expecting. No, he was involved in a few New Jersey recruits. Peter Delaportis, he was part of that, and a few other guys that came from the state, Jalen Cheeks and things like that. But I thought he could have done more. And the way that Rutgers is kind of like mopping the floor with that state right now, they needed to up their game. And I think Savon Huggins is going to be able to do that. But we haven't seen him really land anyone yet because the recruits that we've seen landed are mostly defensive linemen from some weird states, you know what I mean? Like Pennsylvania, Michigan, like kind of those awkward states. You got a couple of Massachusetts guys, and that's it. And then a Texas guy who is obviously John McNulty. So I'm waiting to see what Huggins does. I want to see how he adds to Boston College's presence, because if you have Jeff Hafley and Savon Huggins in New Jersey, two really strong New Jersey guys, really, really strong. I mean, you need to know Savon Huggins. His pedigree before he was a coach was he was one of the top recruits to ever come out of that state. He was a 5-star running back, ended up at Rutgers, never really turned out to be much, but he has a lot of capital in that state. So I'm really interested to see what he does, but he hasn't landed anyone yet, so I can't judge him on what he's done. Now that we're into the post-spring game, a lot of these position coaches, Jeff Hafley said it after the spring game, they're going off around the country. They're going to see other schools. They're going to get out to those schools, get out to those recruits. This is where, and I mean, my goodness, on Tuesday and Monday, there are like 24 offers already out to new recruits that Boston College hasn't been connected with. So keep your eyes open on that. Now, to wrap up our recruiting discussion, I want to talk about two recruits that put Boston College in their top 8. And those are Braden Moore, a defensive back from Stephen T. Baden High School in Hamilton, Ohio. He had a top 8 of Cincinnati, West Virginia, Pitt, Duke, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, and Boston College. Now, I'm interested to see that, a lot of times when you hear recruits give their top 8s, that doesn't mean that the school's going to take them. And Boston College is in on a ton of good defensive backs. And so it's going to be interesting to see where their brain is in terms of their board. Where does Moore fall on that? Because I'm not sure he's a take. You have to wait to find out about that. Now, a name that I imagine has to be a take is 4-star offensive lineman Amir out of Michigan named his top 8 on Monday night. Now, his top 8 included Nebraska, Michigan, Michigan State, Pitt, Cincinnati, Missouri, Penn State, and Boston College. Now, compare that to Braden Moore's top 8, and you can see that this is going to be a much harder get for Boston College because Herring, his top 8 has some really tough programs on it. I mean, you got Cincinnati, who is a playoff team, Missouri, SEC, Penn State, good team, Pitt, they won the ACC, Michigan State, Michigan, and Nebraska are all Big Ten powerhouses in his backyard. So will Boston College be in that picture? I've heard that they're not in bad shape, so I'm not going to count them out on this. It's just a lot of tough sledding there to get past that group. But those are two top 8s that I thought you would want to know about, and they're two at positions that BC has not landed a commitment yet. So just keep your eyes on that, and of course we'll have more news as it comes along. Now, in a moment, Boston College lands their first basketball transfer. I'm going to get into who he is, where he comes from, and what his role probably will be for the Eagles in 2022. Now, it's that time of the year where we're all trying to get ourselves looking good and ready for the beach. And I do it by eating right and eating Built Bars. Now, have you tried the Puffs? I've been telling you about the Puffs for months. They are one of the best tasting Built Bars that they've ever created. And they're protein-infused marshmallows. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and I'm telling you, they are delicious. You gotta check them out because they have some really incredible flavors for the Puffs, including yummy, cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're so good, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Now, they are low-calorie, high-protein, and you're gonna replace all your other snacks with Built Bars. Yes, they are that good. I do. I have one every day at 2:30, and it gives me the protein I need to get my energy going, to get through my podcasting, get through all my work, and be able to continue to strive and go through the end of the day. Now, they have some great flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If you think it might be good, they're going to make it, and they're going to make it good for you. So check out Built.com, and use promo code LOCK15. You're going to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here. For those of you who have not checked it out yet, go back to yesterday's episode. We had a guest correspondent, is what I'm going to call him, Jack Coleman, who's been on our podcast. I've been on his podcast, who reached out and went to the Zay Flowers NIL deal that he created, that he landed with McGovern Auto last week, and he got a brand new $90,000 BMW that he showed off, and he talked to Jack. We had an exclusive interview. So if you've not checked out the Tuesday episode, make sure after this episode you go back and listen to that, because I think you're going to enjoy it. Now, Boston College landed their first transfer portal commitment on Tuesday with the addition of Mason Madsen, a 6'3" combo guard from the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, Madsen, I want to call him Gadsden. Madsen is going to be a very interesting addition for the Eagles because he gives something Boston College that they don't have very much of on their roster. He's an outside shooter. Now, last year, Boston College was abysmal shooting from beyond the arc. You had Brevin Galloway struggling. He's gone. He's in the transfer portal now. But you only really had one really strong outside shooter, and that was Jaden Zachary, who came on strong near the end of the year. The rest of the team really wasn't all that good. And especially off the bench, you just didn't have anyone who could hit those big shots. That's exactly what Madsen is. Now, he didn't see much of a role his second year with Cincinnati, only averaging a little over 3 points per game and a rebound and a half. But his freshman year, he scored 6.5 points per game and 3 rebounds. And he shoots about, he averages about 37% from beyond the arc. And that, it sounds bad, but that's what a good 3-point shooter hits. So what is he going to give Boston College? Is he going to start? Probably not. I don't see him as a starter, but he will be a very valuable rotational player for the Eagles. Now, you're going to roll out probably your starting guards. You're probably going to go with a 3-guard set with BC. You're going to go with the Langford brothers and Jaden Zachary. Move those guys around. Then off of because they were, they're your rock, your foundation of that team. They're going to continue being that in 2022. You're not going to have a guy like Mason Madsen come in and take that over. But you look at the bench. You have 2 freshmen. You don't know exactly what you're going to get from those guys, but you have Donald Hand and Chaz Kelly. Now, Chaz Kelly is a defensive specialist. He's a guy that will do the dirty work that Earl Grant wants from his defense. He's going to be a guy that you could throw out there as a sub, and I'm not sure how much he's going to play, but he'll be a guy that can do all that kind of stuff. Donald Hand, he's a volume scorer. He's a guy that's going to be able to score for you. Now, you add in a 3rd guard. This is a smart move to get because if you're going 3-guard sets, you want 3 guards to back up those 3 guards. So you have Hand, you have Chaz Kelly. Now you add Madsen in as well, and you have a guy off of your bench that can do some things. He's a junior heading into next year. He's played already for 2 seasons, so he's not a guy that, and I think he's going to have 3 years of eligibility because I think one of those years doesn't count because of COVID. You got a guy that can develop. He's got some swagger to him. I like this addition. It's not a massive get for BC. It's not like a guy that's going to turn the tide for Boston College, but as I've said all along, when they're looking at this transfer portal, BC doesn't need that because you have most of your starting lineup from last year going back. You're not going to bench the Langford brothers or Jaden Zachary, and you're not going to bench Quentin Post. Now the wing or whatever TJ Bickerstaff is playing, you could make that argument, but I don't think that's what they're going for. You have 2 transfer portal slots right now. You had 3 spots to go with. You had Mekhi Ashton Langford coming back. He took one. Now you have Madsen taking one. What does Boston College do with that final slot? Now, based off of what I've seen, I think they're going with the big. I think you need one more big to go past Quentin Post. Not go past. Go behind Quentin Post. Because next year you lose James Karnick. You go Post, and then you have Armani Mighty. And I'm just saying it right now. Mighty's going to need some time. He'll get his minutes, but he's going to need some time because right now, I'm just guessing he's going to get to the college level and be a foul machine. Usually when you got a guy that's a defensive guy, which is what Mighty is, they take a little while to learn the kind of nuances of the college game because they usually go out there and they get foul, and then they're out of the game. So I think it might just be a little bit of a learning curve there. So I think BC needs another experienced big in there. And I know that they've made some offers to some guys out there, but I think that'll be the last spot. I don't think, and that there was buzz that Gianni Thompson entered the transfer portal. I thought that he might, but I have not seen any news confirming this, and I don't feel comfortable reporting it because he seems like he's coming back to Boston College. So you have that one spot. You have one spot left in the transfer portal. We'll have to wait to see. I believe I've heard that transfers have to announce by May 1st if they're going to enter the portal. They don't have to make a decision at that point, but they just have to get their name in there if they want to play next year. So we'll probably know in the next couple of weeks who the name will be, like who it could come from, but we won't know who it will be. Pretty soon, the guy will have to be in the transfer portal at that point. So that's our little update on BC basketball in terms of the transfer portal because it's big news. You get a new name on a team that played pretty well. You hope this guy kind of fits the culture, and we'll have to wait and see. And, as I said on yesterday's show, I kind of rushed through it because we didn't have a ton of time. Brevin Galloway entered the transfer portal, which surprised everyone, including Brevin Galloway, because it sounded like Brevin Galloway didn't know he had another year of eligibility left. But I all the credit to Galloway, who came across as everything he does as a class act, because he said in his statement that, he didn't think he was part of BC's plans because he didn't think he had availability left. And he did not want to impose on Boston College because they had other plans going forward and he wanted to let them do their thing. Now, absolute class Brevin Galloway was. And just again to wrap it up because I can't say it enough, he played with one leg all year. Yeah, his numbers weren't good. His 3-point shooting was hard to watch at times, but that guy did more off the court than anyone else to set the culture, to set the example heading into the future of what Earl Grant wanted because he knew him from College of Charleston, to continue that into future seasons. He set that tone with every other player. He was a vocal leader. He was a guy that the locker room respected, and that piece will resonate long after he goes someplace else. So I think that, losing Galloway isn't a big deal, but you have to acknowledge what he's done for the Boston College program. If you like where this program is going, and it's hard not to like what Grant did in his first year, you have to give credit to Brevin Galloway because he helped transform a locker room that was, listless under Jim Christian into something special last year. So that's just my final thoughts on Brevin Galloway. We'll see where he ends up. Now, in a moment, there was transfer portal news all over the place for football, basketball, and women's basketball on Tuesday. I'm going to dive in and tell you all the news and nuggets you're going to want to know about for that. Now, for a big announcement, starting Thursday, April 28th, tune into Locked On NFL Draft's live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft, with all 3 days of real-time analysis from our extensive lineup of experts and insiders. And for those of you dying to know who your team will take, catch Odyssey and Locked On NFL Mock Draft Special, hosted by Brian Peacock and former scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show, all week leading up to the first pick. So check out the NFL Live Draft on the YouTube page or the Odyssey Mock Draft on the podcast feeds. It's all coming up and you're not going to want to miss that. Now, Rock Auto is your place to go if you want to save on car parts. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts stores to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating question? You can just take out your computer, open up rockauto.com, and save money. Why spend 30, 50%, or even 100% more when you can head over to rockauto.com, a family business, and save and do it yourself? Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. And when you do, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black. I apologize if I have like a whimpering sound behind me. Right now, my dog is like running around my house, freaking out because in my area near Worcester, people decide that starting the 4th of July fireworks and Memorial Day fireworks should start around mid-April and go nonstop into August. And of course, my dog thinks it's like, the end of the world with all that noise outside. So she's freaking out right now behind me. But anyways, this is time to talk a little bit about the transfer portal. There's lots of movement and news around the transfer portal that we should get into. So first, let's kick it off with women's basketball. Now, Marnell Garrod from Lynn, Massachusetts, a great three-point shooter for the women's basketball team, entered the transfer portal a couple weeks ago, and she announced her commitment to her new program on Tuesday, and she is going to the SEC where she's going to play for Vanderbilt. Now, good luck to her. That's the first BC transfer that has found a new team. I know that Clara Ford also is in the transfer portal. I saw her at the spring game last week, so she's still around Boston College, but we'll have to wait to see what happens with the rest of the roster, if BC adds any transfers or loses any other players. I've heard buzz of Cam Schwartz, but I have not seen anything definitive of where she's going. Also, let's go back into the transfer portal to hockey, because transfer portal news is just like, it's everything. Casey Careau, who was a Boston College hockey player, has transferred to Niagara. Now, I don't know anything about Niagara hockey. I'm going to tell you that right now. So he was more of a, Careau was more of a, third or fourth line player. He didn't play all that much, filled in here or there. Not a big loss for the Eagles. Now, let's continue our journey down the transfer portal to men's basketball, as guard Kanye Jones, who had announced that he was entering the transfer portal, we talked about that last segment, he's got his new home. He's heading to the University of Buffalo. Now, he'll be there with former Boston College safety Jamin Muse, who's playing for the football team. But Kanye Jones, as I said before, it just didn't seem like he fit with this program. He played for BC, but could you explain to me what he did that made him stand out? I couldn't figure it out. I think this is good, playing for Buffalo. Buffalo's had some good basketball teams in years past. So I'm not poo-pooing this at all, because, maybe he finds a good program there that can help develop him into what he needs. And it's a little different than what BC can offer him. So Kanye Jones is heading off to the MAC to be with Buffalo. And then this is just a little nugget. Mike Farrell, who used to be a bigwig at Rivals, has started his own news site called The Portal Report. And he had a news item on Marquise Irving, a former 4-star running back who rushed for 700 yards and 4 touchdowns during his freshman year at Minnesota and rushed for over 100 yards in 3 of his 11 games he played in. Well, according to Farrell, Boston College is in on him in the transfer portal. I don't know if that's 100% true. That's what he says. To me, this one doesn't make sense. Now, this is just an item he has, and maybe he's right. But Irving is very, very talented, and Boston College is in on him. All the power to him, because you get the talented players and you bring them in. But does it match up with what Hafley has saying? No, he's from Minnesota. He played in Minnesota last year. Hafley has said all along that he wants to develop guys. He wants guys. He only hits the transfer portal for things he needs. And earlier this spring, at the spring game, he just said, maybe I'll get 1 or 2 more guys out of the transfer portal to fill some needs. Running back, to me, when I look at this roster and look at the recruiting class of 2022 coming in, does not strike me as a place of need for Boston College. You have right now Pat Garwo for a couple more years. Alex Sinkfield is gone after this year. You have Xavier Coleman, and then you have you have Andre Hines, who hasn't done anything but looked pretty good, I thought, during the spring game. And then you have 3 freshmen coming in. You have Cam Barfield, Alex Broom, and CJ Clinkscales. So where does another running back fit in there? You have 6 guys at least that could play. Now, I'm gonna go on the record to say that I do doubt that all 3 freshmen that are coming in are going to be running backs. You could easily see maybe someone like Clinkscales moving over to either wide receiver or defensive back. 3 running backs in one class just seems weird to me. So I'm not sure that happens. So maybe you just say 2. If that is the case, if I'm right on with that, then Marquise Irving makes a lot of sense, to add that guy. But that also, you also have to add in the factor of where are they at with the class of 2023 running backs, and they've offered quite a few really good ones. So I'm gonna say that there's a lot of smoke on this, like a lot of mirrors on this one. I don't think it's true. I don't see them really going for him. But we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, we'll see where, if he visits, if he has a top list or anything like that. His name is Marquise Irving, and we'll keep our eye open for that one. Now, tomorrow's show, we're going to get into some more news about BC football. We'll look at some more basketball coverage and anything that happens over the next couple days. We'll make sure we get into that. So check out our episode tomorrow. We're still in 5 days a week, and I'm telling you, we got a lot to get into over the next couple of weeks because the NFL draft is coming up tomorrow. We can look at some of the placements that I saw for Zion Johnson and where we think he may end up, and all sorts of other things that you're going to want to know about. Follow me on Twitter at LockedOnBC, at AJBlack_BC, and make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. You can check out our interview with Zay Flowers yesterday, and I'm going to leave this episode by telling you I'm working on another big interview that I will be doing that should be coming out in about a week and a half, that you're going to want to make sure that you subscribe to Locked On Boston College anywhere you find your podcast, because this is one you're not going to want to miss. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.